Hi, my fourth grade friends. I'm going to work through the learning packet 4, learning phase 4, task number 5 in your reading packet that you have. So pages 16, it starts on page 14, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so this one is about colonization and the Revolutionary War with Paul Revere's Ride. There's a text that goes with it. There's a little bit of, I guess, pre-knowledge that comes with it. So I'm going to start actually on page 16, and it starts with a little mini article about Paul Revere. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to actually read that to you. It's also in your packet. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. So Paul Revere, he was born on December 1st, 1773, and died on May 10th, 1818. He was an early United States patriot and a leader of the American Revolution. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and worked there as a silversmith. He was married twice and became the father of 16 children. This is a photograph or probably a painting more likely of Paul Revere in 1768. Revere was a member of the group called Sons of Liberty. This group wanted better treatment for the American colonies from the British government. Revere made a silver engraving of the Boston Massacre. This engraving made Americans even more angry with the British. Revere was a courier and soldier of the American Revolution. After the Revolutionary War, he operated a metal foundry in Boston. He died in Boston and was buried in the Granary Burying Ground. He was most famous for alerting the colonial militia that British soldiers were coming before the battles of Lexington and Concord. In 1860, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem about this called Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. Okay, so a little bit about Paul Revere background knowledge. So let me share with you some vocabulary you're going to see in your story. So the first word here, and I'm on page 16, is declaration. Okay, here's a photograph of the Declaration of the United States of America, one of the most famous declarations that there has been. So declaration officially is a formal announcement or official or formal announcement or statement, okay, or a document that contains an official statement. So the American colonies made a declaration of war against England. Could be the act of declaring. So something that you're doing. His declaration of love came as a surprise to her, or something that is declared. So I declare that this is the best day ever. Or his declaration met deaf ears. So what I said wasn't heard. Okay, so this is declaration, a word that you'll hear. Another one is patriotism. Probably a little bit more familiar with the word patriotism. I have a picture of course, the American flag, sign of patriotism in the United States. This is Uncle Sam with the American flag, and this is a bald eagle, another symbol of patriotism in the United States. Patriotism is a love for or devotion and loyalty to one's nation. So United States, our nation, symbols of the American flag, red, white, and blue. If I go to another country, they have another flag with different colors, so those will be symbols of their patriotism to their country or to their area, okay? Patriotism, I look up to it, I love it, and devotion to that, okay? So what we're gonna do here is I'm getting ready to share my screen with you, and I will pull up a video of Schoolhouse Rock about America and shots heard around the world, again, pertaining to Paul Revere. Okay, so we are going to watch a video of the shots heard around the world. It's a Schoolhouse Rock video, all about Paul Revere, and it goes back to that story, that poem that was written about Paul Revere's rise. It relates right back to that. Go ahead and play this for you, and you don't have to look it up.
Grows bigger.
Your mind must flower.
It's great to learn.
'Cause knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rocky, the chip off the block of your favorite Schoolhouse Rock.
How would you like to hear the shot heard round the world?
The British are coming! The British are coming!
Now the ride of Paul Revere set the nation on its ear, and the shot at Lexington heard round the world. When the British fired in the early dawn, the War of Independence had begun. The die was cast, the rebel flag unfurled, and on to Concord marched the foe to seize the arsenal there, you know, waking folks and searching all around. Till our militia stopped them in their tracks. At the old North Bridge we turned them back and chased those redcoats back to Boston town. And the shot heard round the world was the start of the revolution. The Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your powder, take your gun, report to General Washington. Hurry men, there's not an hour to lose. Now at famous Bunker Hill, even though we lost, it was quite a thrill. The rebel Colonel Prescott proved he was wise. Outnumbered and low on ammunition as the British stormed his position, he said, hold your fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Though the next few years were rough, General Washington's men proved they were tough. Those hungry, ragged boys would not be beat. One night they crossed the Delaware, surprised the Hessians in their lair, and at Valley Forge they just bundled up their feet. Now the shot heard round the world was the start of the revolution. The Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your blanket, take your sun, report to General Washington. We've got our rights and now it's time to prove. Well, they showed such determination that they won the admiration of countries across the sea like France and Spain, who loaned the colony ships and guns and put the British on the run and the Continental Army on its feet again. And though they lost some battles too, the Americans swore they'd see it through. Their raiding parties kept up hit and run. At Yorktown, the British could not retreat, bottled up by Washington and the French fleet. Cornwallis surrendered, and finally we had won. Hooray! From the shot heard round the world to the end of the revolution, the Continental rabble took the day, and the father of our country beat the British there at Yorktown and brought freedom to you and me and the USA. God bless America. Let freedom ring.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is I want you to go back to your organizer in your packet on page 15, okay, and fill in anything, that you have learned so far. I know we haven't read your main text, but the middle right here, what have you learned so far about Paul Revere and colonization and the Revolutionary War? Okay, pause this video and fill that in. And when you're done, click play and we'll keep going. All right, so now I want you to go back and I want you to turn to page 17 and see this QR code. Take the camera on your smartphone or tablet or iPad and scan it and play this video. It's gonna bring up the same Schoolhouse Rock video we just watched, okay? I want you to watch it again, and this time I want you to jot down 2 or 3 things that you learned in these boxes right here underneath, okay? One in each box that you've learned from watching this little mini clip of shots heard around the world, okay? Pause this video, go back, watch that little snippet again, and take some notes. Okay, so now that we're ready to move on, I want us to actually read our text. You can go to page 14 and scan this barcode, and it'll read the story through to you. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you also because the reading is directly from the website and it's rather dry. So you can pause this and go back and read, listen to it, or you can sit here and listen to me reading to you, whatever is your preference, okay? So colonization and the Revolutionary War, Paul Revere's Ride. So as you're listening, I want you to think about what you're learning because I'm going to give you an opportunity to take some notes and write down what you've learned, okay? All right, when we're done. Colonization and Revolutionary War, Paul Revere's Ride. On April 19th, 1775, the American Revolution began. Before the shots of war were fired, Paul Revere left Boston under a cloak of darkness. He rode his horse to nearby Lexington. Two leaders of the Revolution, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, were hiding there. Samuel Adams had organized the Boston Tea Party. Hancock would eventually become the first signer of the Declaration of Independence. Sorry, friends. The British felt that they could squelch the revolution if they could capture these men. Revere was able to warn Hancock and Adams, and both men escaped before the British arrived. As he galloped across the countryside to Lexington, Paul Revere called out to any colonies that could hear him. He warned them that the British soldiers were coming. The colonists had a militia. These troops would be ready in case of any sort of attack. They were called Minutemen because they could prepare so quickly. Minutemen came from farms all over the countryside and gathered together in Lexington. The Minutemen lined up and waited for the British to arrive in their red uniforms. The redcoats came and the men stood facing each other for a few moments. No one moved. Then the air burst with noise. A shot was fired. No one knows who fired first, but the war started. Shots surrounded back and forth. Later, that first shot would be nicknamed the shot heard round the world. The whole world was watching. They wanted to see what would happen to the colonies as they tried to battle one of the greatest countries in the world. Years later, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem about Paul Revere's famous ride. The details of Longfellow's poem are not completely accurate. Longfellow wanted to arouse patriotism rather than record history. So we can read the excerpts from this famous poem. Think about how it makes you feel. Paul Revere's Ride. Remember, not all of this is true, guys. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath, from the pebbles, in passing, a spark. Struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet, that was all, and yet, through the gloom and the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark struck out by that steed in his flight, kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep. It was two by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of the birds among the trees. Okay, so pause this video and you can go back and listen to the whole story read aloud before you go back and you finish writing the last part over here, of what you learned, okay? Read the story, listen to the vocabulary, watch the Schoolhouse Rock video as many times as you need to be able to add 2 or 3 details about what you've learned. Okay? Go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and do that. And just unpause when you are ready to move on. All right, friends, so we're almost done this task. The last part of this task is on page 17, step 5. It's the writing extension. The directions are to please complete a writing task to show the knowledge you've gained about Paul Revere's ride. You can use your own paper or you can write on the back of this paper. They didn't give you any lines, but it's okay. You guys can make your own or just get a piece of scrap notebook paper. So here's your task. To write an informational paragraph about Paul Revere's life. Begin with your main idea and then include supporting details. So you're writing about Paul Revere's life, guys. You've learned a couple of different things about his life. Things you might want to think about including are important things that happened. So maybe when he was born, if we learn about when he was born, when he died, okay? things that he did in his life. So what is the big main idea? It's all about Paul Revere, right? Make your organizer friends. So before you start your writing, look at your scrap piece of paper and think, what is it mostly about? And what are some details? So you might want to say, oh, well, this is what it was mostly about. This is what your main idea is. Okay, this is going to help you organize your writing. So your main idea, all right? So this what is you're mainly talking about in your story about Paul Revere. Then you're going to have your detail. Okay, and you can have another detail and another detail in your organizer. You're going to take these details, these notes that you wrote down, okay, and you're going to use these to help you write your story in complete sentences about, sorry, I'm in my tea, about your topic of Paul Revere. Okay, your informational articles. So you're telling people about Paul Revere. Informational articles are articles that have real events and real facts. You get them from the story we read or about the mini videos, okay? When you're done at the bottom of page 17, there is an extension or an opportunity for enrichment with a little mini video, okay? That is not required. You can do that if you want to, but it is not required. All right, my friends? You've been working super, super hard, and I am so proud of you for all the work you've done. Please remember to submit your work to your teachers, and I will see you later. Bye, friends.